But as the clock winds through May 10th, the pendulum swings back to the U.S. Navy. At 1 p.m., another Alpha Strike mission is launched from carriers in the Gulf of Tonkin. Joining the cap is Showtime 106, an F-4 Phantom flown by Lieutenant Matt Connolly with his Rio Tom Blonsky.
I could cover everything to my right.
The F-4s go feet dry over North Vietnam. These naval aviators are heading straight into an epic confrontation. The U.S. Navy's most intense dogfight of the Vietnam War. May 10, 1972, 1:15 p.m. U.S. Navy strike aircraft begin their bomb runs on the Haidong rail yards. F-4 Phantom pilot Matt Connolly patrols just north at 18,000 feet. Connolly rolls on his side and scans the sky below him.
I looked down and I could see an A-7 in this real tight turn, and right behind him were these two black specks.
The bandits are MiG-17s, a subsonic but very agile dogfighter with a lethal reputation. To position himself on the MiG-6, Connolly will roll right in a steep dive, then roll back left to get in trail.
It must have been about a 60-degree turn to the right.
Connolly tracks the lead MiG-17. His AIM 9D Sidewinders are armed, but he doesn't have good tone. Connolly fires a Sidewinder. The missile streaks off the rail, but immediately the MiG pulls into the vertical.
I rolled wings level and then just lit the burner and started to go back up towards him, just pitch back into the fight.
Connolly's maneuver reveals an awesome sight. As many as 20 MiGs and 25 American aircraft in violent air combat.
There were.
A MiG-17 flashes in front of the F-4. Connolly deftly rolls in behind the MiG.
He was in a right-hand turn. I was probably a mile and a half behind him or something like that.
The MiG begins rolling back to the left to check his 6 o'clock.
They had a very slow roll rate. So as this guy rolled from right to left, I just pulled in behind him.
Connolly is in good position for a Fox 2, an AIM-9 Sidewinder launch.
Trigger. It went off and went straight up his tailpipe. The airplane just exploded.
I remember the aircraft shuddering as we went by. We didn't go through the debris. You could just feel the shuddering. I think it's probably the heat as we went by. It's just unbelievable.
The Phantom roars past. Connolly snaps left back into the dogfight.
All of a sudden, here came another one. And it was almost a duplication of the first kill. The first one we knocked down.
The MiG-17 is in a right turn, just in front of Connolly's F-4.
He did the same thing and then rolled out. Because I was down to my last missile and I wanted to make this one good. And I had a good tone, and just as I squeezed the trigger, bang, the tone dropped off. Oh no!
The missile begins to corkscrew towards the target.
And all of a sudden there's this black puff. The whole tail just spun right off. The ejection seat fired, and I watched him come out. And then the drogue chute slowed. I remember being amazed because the parachutes are square.
Connolly and Blonsky have dropped beneath the melee. They'll need to climb to get back into the fight.
All of a sudden, here's this MiG, and I start calling out to Matt. Matt, we got one at 9 o'clock, and he's coming in close.
I said, I don't see him. He said, he's right there. I said, oh, that guy.
The MiG passes underneath the F-4.
As he crossed underneath me, I should have peckled off the centerline tank, because I think it would have dropped it right in his face. When he came out the other side, and it did what in the F-4 was called a post-stall gyration. The airplane just quit flying. It just decided, not enough airspeed, not enough thrust, we're not flying anymore.
The nose drops. The horizon whips across the windscreen as the F-4 enters into a spin. Connolly and Blonsky are tossed back and forth in the cockpit. The Phantom is out of control. May 10th, 1972. In a wild, turning fight, Navy F-4 pilot Matt Connolly has killed 2 MiGs. Now his Phantom has stalled and entered a spin. But Connolly has faced this situation in training.
It's gonna go nose down no matter what you do. The worst thing you can do is to try and fight it or accelerate it.
Connolly knows that as the Phantom plummets, it will gain airspeed and eventually stabilize. Connolly fights the urge to control the spin. After agonizing seconds, the F-4 begins flying.
We came out of the bottom and then basically couldn't see anybody, so started heading on out. At that time I said that we were running out of ammo.
Connolly is out of the fight. He moves the throttles into afterburner. The Phantom accelerates towards the Gulf of Tonkin. But in the midst of the same intense action over Haidong, another Phantom pilot, Lieutenant Steve Shoemaker, with his Rio, Lieutenant Keith Crenshaw, will get his own chance at the MiGs. Shoemaker is flying CAP for an A-7 Iron Hand mission, a dedicated strike against surface-to-air missile sites. As Shoemaker concentrates on the escort mission, bandit calls from Red Crown increase.
I really wasn't focusing on anything. I was just kind of took in the scene.
It was pretty crazy. It just amazed me.
Shoemaker barrels into the melee and quickly spots a fellow F-4 with a MiG on his tail. Shoemaker breaks hard right behind the MiG.
The MiG about 200 feet right in front of me. And that was when you pray if you had guns.
Shoemaker hopes his missile will at least get the MiG's attention. But just as it leaves the rail, another F-4 rises directly into his flight path. Shoemaker's airplane is knocked onto its left wing by the blast of hot exhaust. The stick nearly flies out of his right hand. Shoemaker wrestles the Phantom back to level flight and scans the sky.
I looked and I went, damn, it's all over. There wasn't anybody around. My nose, tapped the burners, accelerated away, and just waltzed away from it.
Sailor in the U.S. Navy leaves the hostile skies of North Vietnam. The action over the Haidong rail yard was the biggest dogfight the Navy ever fought in Vietnam. in addition to Steve Shoemaker's 1 MiG kill and Matt Connolly's 2. Randy Duke Cunningham scored 3, making him the Vietnam War's first ace.
When I got back aboard the carrier, and after I landed,
In the air that day, success meant something totally different.
that was our job, was to protect the strike group. And that was our main job. We were Target Combat Air Patrol. We were supposed to keep the MiGs away from the strike group. And that particular day, I think we did a pretty successful job.